welcome everyone. If you are new to the show, thanks for finding me. And if you're a return visitor, thanks for your loyalty. I always feel that all my guests are special in their unique way. I connect with the passion they put into their work, and that's why I started this show. And I especially felt that way with this year's guests. And what an appropriate year it was, with 2020 being an unusual year in general. I'm ending this special year by interviewing Lucy Pond, a well known astrologer who combines tarot with her readings. But perhaps her fame as a tarot slash astrologer hasn't extended to the fact that she's also an accomplished and multifaceted artist. In fact, this show may be best appreciated on my YouTube channel, where you can see Lucy showing examples of the art as she's discussing it with me. And I have links to that channel in the show notes if you'd like to watch it instead of listen. Before we jump right into the discussion that I had with Lucy, I want to give you a bit of her official biography because it's impressive, as you might imagine. Lucy is originally from Washington State. She's currently living in New Mexico, and she graduated from the University of Washington in Humanities. She's been a practicing astrologer and tarot reader since 1972. She owned a metaphysical bookshop in Maui for 5 years and then one in Seattle. She was the vice president and then president of the Washington State Astrological Association and studied at the Northwest School of Astrology with Marc Robertson's classes. With Joanne Wickenburg, she taught and operated in Astrological School in Seattle. She's the co-author of the Metaphysical Handbook with her brother, David Pond, as well as having contributed chapters in astrological books and has been published in the Mountain Astrologer. She's sponsored astrological conferences in Seattle, has taught classes in metaphysical awareness in Tulum, Mexico, and has participated in Women's Day spa retreats in Vancouver, British Columbia, and Seattle. She's made multiple television and radio appearances in Seattle, Vancouver, BC, and Maui, and has been on many podcasts. But seldom has she shared her personal journey on those podcasts. So I'm especially delighted and honored that she agreed to be with us to tell us more of the story of how she chose the work that she does and how it plays the role in her life that it clearly does. So now, here's my conversation with Lucy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming back if you're a repeat listener, and if you're new to the show, thanks so much for finding me. As you heard, today we're welcoming Lucy Pond. And Lucy, thanks so much for joining us. It is a true delight to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Lucy, I'd love for you to share with us a little bit of your journey. We know that you're an artist, an astrologer, and a tarot reader. And those three things combined just lead me to a lot of curiosity on how you learned all three of those.
Okay, well, I got into astrology when I got out of college. I knew I wanted to be a social worker. So I was going to go to graduate school of social work. And as a present, one of my friends had given me an astrology reading when I graduated. And it was an aha moment for me. I mean, he wasn't even a professional astrologer, but there were things that he was saying that impacted me so deeply. It's like I saw the fork in the road. I saw I could be working for the state in a little cubicle and talking to people and having to tell them what the state says I should tell them, or I could be an astrologer and learn to help people understand and uncover the essence of who they are. So at that point, that's when I started my journey with seeking out good teachers and books and the whole process of how to learn. You know, when you don't know it, it can seem very complex. It's like a foreign language.
Mhm.
And, with time that gets less and less complex and you learn more things. And I had an excellent teacher, Marc Robertson, and I just took all his classes in Seattle. And then it seems it didn't take more than like 2 or 3 years, and I was teaching classes myself. And so the astrology part of it was very strong and still is. But one of the places that I also took classes, they taught tarot, and I thought, well, I wonder, I'm just going to go take one of those classes. So I took a tarot class. So that probably was in 19. I don't know. I mean, it must have been 1973 that I took my first tarot class, and I was sitting next to this woman. And I just thought, oh my God, I love her. I love everything about her. And she became really my profound teacher because she knew so much more even than the teacher. And so her name was Grace. I took classes from her, learned from her. And, she was a very big influence. And one of the things we did at this astrology school, the Astrology Center of the Northwest, we had to do psychic fairs. So all of us would get our little tables and we'd line up, and people, there were so many people who came. So, you just had to learn how to do everything really fast. People had 10 minutes and there was somebody else ringing a bell and off they went. So get to it. I actually loved those. They were exhausting, but you got to understand your tools. You had no choice but to learn. Whether the person asked for astrology or tarot, you had to do it fast and say something meaningful and connect with them. So that's a long time ago. I've been doing this a very long time.
Yeah, and as you say that, what I'm thinking is that aha moment that you had prompted you to be creating all those aha moments for others.
Yes, and and oftentimes I've seen that with others. And I was at first very resistant to work first on the telephone. I didn't want to work on the telephone with people because I like being with people, and then it just wasn't always possible. And then I realized you could have this connection. And then it went to video, and you just go, you have no choice. This is what's there. And you learn how to be centered, be calm, and pick up on that person's energy.
Mhm. And you've moved a few times. You are from Washington, but you've lived in Hawaii and Oregon, and now you're in New Mexico, correct?
I know. That's
Yeah.
true. I like to say I married a Gemini. I mean, he wakes up and goes, "We're moving." Really? I'm a Taurus. I really dig in. I have my friends. I have my office all set. I go, no, I don't want to move. And
Oh.
we have made these changes, and I must say something. They have all prompted me to grow in a different way. To
Yeah.
kind of get out of a certain comfort zone. When I met my husband, which was I think it was 1986, he told me that he'd never stayed in a career longer than 9 or 10 years. Now, I should have taken that more seriously. I should have said, "Oh, he's not going to stay at anything too long. He's just passing through." Um, Periodically, I say to him, "Do you know that we're married for life? Do you get that?" Because I think he's going to say, "Well, I'm done here," but he hasn't. He has not done that, so that's good.
Hindsight gives us that insight on our wisdom, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And the different places I've lived, like when I lived in Hawaii, I had this sweet little Hawaiian business, the Reflecting Pond, and it was I just loved it. It was so, um, everything was kind of funky, but most people who ended up in Hawaii, what I found, they were there because something in their life wasn't working. There was something that drew them. It wasn't just the sunshine and the ocean, and there was something they were drawn to be there. I was one of those too. It's like I had to go through certain changes, and Hawaii was, it was wonderful. I wish the Hawaii that I knew back then, from 75 to 80, still existed, but it doesn't. Now it's a very different place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, as a artist, I know you've written at least one book, and you do visual art as well. How did that aspect of life come into being for you?
Well, I think when I was younger, I called it journaling. So it was always having a journal and drawing pictures, or I meet somebody, write down their birth date. When I get home, look up their planets. It was before computers. Look up their planets, do these little horoscopes in my books, and things that I could notice about them, or I could say, oh, that's what that must mean, as I get to know them better. And I'm going to show you one of the horoscopes that I've been doing today. Now, I don't know if you can see this very well.
Oh,
okay, so this one is going to be Kamala Harris. And you're not going to see it. This one's Joe Biden. Okay, so these are, this is a watercolor paper that I've put gesso, then I put these colors on, then I scratch out, literally, with, scratch these horoscopes into them. And I've been doing them, like this one's Georgia O'Keeffe. And again, you're not going to see the signs, but you can see the colors, and you can see they've actually gotten a lot looser with time. That's what I can tell you, is that I see things as moving as opposed to just this one little circle on a page. Back when I was doing the journaling, that the art part was always, it just always felt so therapeutic. I grew up in a very hectic, very disjointed, chaotic family. There wasn't a lot of security. And so for me, security was having a coloring book and coloring carefully within all the lines. I mean, there was never anything that went out of a line. And that I would just, some part, it just took me out of everything out here and gave me something to focus on. So I'd have to say that there has been a part of the art that was always there. I mean, not like when I went to school, I remember in grade school, the class that would, literally, once it did make me wet my pants in class, and just so humiliating, but was art. Because art was, they'd say, draw a tree. Well, that's not clear for somebody who's just looking for, I don't want to do it wrong, or how do I do this, or draw your house. I just didn't know how to just do something. I didn't get it. And as I've gotten older and taken a lot of classes and practiced a lot myself, I look back on those early days and I think, I wish some teacher could have just held me and said, whatever you do is okay. There is no right or wrong. But I didn't know that, and I was terrified. We also, when I was young, we also moved a lot. Like each house would be up for like demolition or something, and we'd go to another part of the city in Seattle and have to go to another new school. Everything was always about getting started again. And one of the places we lived, there was a neighbor that I just fell in love with. I just loved older women. I have a moon in Capricorn, and I'll tell you, if there's an old woman anywhere near me, I'm going to know her. I want to know her story, and I sure want to be there when she cooks. And this woman, she showed me, and I was probably 8 years old, and she taught me these things called Chinese fortune sticks. Do you know what those are?
I do not. No.
Have you ever heard of those?
No. I Ching runes, but not Chinese fortune sticks.
Yeah, it's these, and she'd come from Russia, and she brought this with her, and you pick one of these, and it has a fortune. It tells you something.
Wow.
And she
That's a
picked one of
beautiful
these.
case, too.
Yes, it's so beautiful. And she picked one of these, and she said, I want you to stay overnight with me tonight. You stay overnight with me tonight. You go home, I said, well, my mom's not home. She said, you go tell your dad you're going to be here. And I think it was really fortunate that she did. I mean, then I didn't have to be around some very kind of bad things that were happening in my family. And so I thought, oh, there's something in that. It wasn't, what was it? How did she know that this was the night, or that that she should? It got something turning inside of me about magic, really. That oftentimes a moment is more than what it is on the surface. You know this in the work you do. I know this. But when I was a young child, I didn't know that. And it was like a way of saying, just mental note, got that one. And
yeah. And what a special group of teachers you had along the way that weren't your traditional type teachers. It sounds like you found several that were very unusual. Grace, this woman, very, very special and unique.
They really were. I felt so lucky. And I have to say, Marc Robertson, who was the first person that I knew that died of AIDS in the early 1980s. And he was also someone that was just so special. At one point, he said to me, you need to go into astrology. And I said, why? And he said, astrology, the face of astrology needs more people like you. And you might not know that right now, but you are the new face of astrology. And I always think, well, I think it's because I have a more practical approach to things, and I'm not kind of goofy about any of this. I might be goofy on many other levels, but when I'm talking to somebody about their life, I couldn't be more serious, trying to come up with something that would be helpful to that person.
I agree. And that's one thing I was going to ask you about, Lucy, because I look at astrology, and first of all, there's so many different systems and schools and traditions. And that's one thing I want to ask you about. But then the other thing that I want you to tie into that is your approach is so practical, I think is the word I would use. Because when you read a chart, you look at it in your expertise, but you bring it to real life. You don't just talk about the magic to me, magic is real life also, but the words aren't mystical and etherical and all that, which I get really tired of also, because we live right here and now. So let's talk about here and now.
And you live in the here and now. And I always feel like, you can see certain things in the horoscope. And I think that I'm somebody who has a lot of earth in my chart, so I like things to be practical. I like to bring them to some kind of practical, sensible what do these mean in real life terms? And I don't know why, why that happened. Was it just the way I looked at these? Because I have gone to readings myself with other astrologers, and people who I always thought were just, I mean, they, very famous, cost a lot of money to get a reading, and I come out and go, I have no idea what they said. Nothing, and I don't know what it was. It was just, why couldn't they just talk to me as a person? Maybe, I don't know. But my approach is very practical. It really is about, let's find you in this map that we have here. Let's try to bring this into your life and something that's meaningful for you.
Can you define or name what school it is that you identify with, or the tradition? How does that work? I mean, I know there's, or what I understand, evolutionary, predictory, and maybe I'm not saying it correctly, but can you explain that a little bit?
Well, when the kind that I do is probably closest to evolution. I don't even know what they call it, the School of Evolutionary Astrology or something, but it isn't that. I've gone to a conference on that. Again, I walk out and go, oh, where's the there? I mean, I know that I like the premise because it says everything is an evolution. Your horoscope is an evolution. What you were born with at that moment, it is from the next day, it's a little bit different. The planets are shifting a little bit. So what do I call mine? I don't know. I guess I'd call it more just practical astrology. And it's Western astrology. It is, there's probably a name for it, and I'm just blanking on it.
How about if we name it the AHA for AHA moments?
AHA School of Astrology. Yes.
The AHA moment, Western astrology.
AHA moment. And yeah, well, it can happen. I mean, it doesn't mean every astrologer has the wonderful opportunity to really connect with a client. Sometimes it's just, you just can't get there. But so many times you do make a connection, and it is so satisfying that you just that's why I do it, and I keep wondering how to do it better, how to be just a little bit better with it. And after doing it now for over 45 years, a long time, I think, well, I have to say the art started probably 20 or 25 years ago, where I started really seeking out other ways to express myself. And yeah, because I was still in Seattle, and it was a difficult time. Our son was acting out a lot, and I just felt like I needed to be in the dining room all the time so I could see him coming and going and what was going on, who was in the house, couldn't be upstairs in my studio or anything. And so, as the art came in, it just seemed to round out something in me that really hadn't been there before, or that in another way, I'd say it was always there, but just hadn't bubbled to the surface enough. And, first it was taking pastel classes and colored pencils. I mean, I love all those things. But I think now I'm moving more towards abstract painting. I love it. That's all I can say. I really find that is such a meditation for me to sit down and not try to make a tree look like a tree. Mm-hmm. I might have the essence of a tree inside of me that I'm thinking about, and I might bring those colors and put them on the paper, but it doesn't have to look like that tree for me to feel like I've done a good job at it.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some of your work on Instagram, and I love your abstracts. I also love the box, the Leo box that you had.
Oh, yeah, that's in my outfit, this one. Okay, let
Oh,
me show you that up close.
oh, I love that. Let me see.
Well, the boxes, they were also just such a fun part of all of this. And, I'd find these cool papers, and then I would take like the tarot card for the sun, and then I put all these symbols that are also about what the sun means. And it's the sign of Leo, which is ruled by the sun. And now I have a lot of these little boxes. So I have, let me see. This one is the Three of Pentacles. And I found this piece in like a Chinese warrior, and because I think knowledge, and I think of this as knowing. And so I put these symbols that I thought about knowing, and I just used this white and gold, and these have been very, very fun to do. And I have to say, I think they give me, this one's fun too. Okay, so this one is called the Seven of Pentacles.
Oh, wow.
And I have 7 pentacles on that table, just like in the card. And the 7 is looking for meaning, really. So all 7s are metaphysical. So I tried to get that across with this box. Anyway, I have a bunch of these for each one of the cards.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what I do with my time, Tom.
Oh, I just love these. They really speak to me. I really love them.
Oh. Well, I hope to someday have a show where I could bring out all these metaphysical pieces, like the boxes, the charts, like this, Georgia O'Keeffe, and all of these horoscopes. And I just think they talk about bringing metaphysics to life.
And that would be such a perfect follow-up in current time to your book, because your book was about the foundation of metaphysics, correct?
Yes, it was a beginner's book. And I think that to take this further would be, I don't think everybody has to become an astrologer, but I do think to understand that there are symbols in the universe that are available for all of us, that we don't have to go to an astrologer. Or my first teacher, Nada, the Russian lady, and these sticks and the fortunes that they told. I mean, I'm sure she didn't think of herself as metaphysical at all. She was a Russian lady. She got up every morning at 4:00 to take the bus down to the hospital and cook all day and then come home. And, it was a very simple life. Hard on her, but it wasn't metaphysical at all.
It's very practical in many ways. Yeah. Very rooted, very grounded. Okay, so mentioning that the world offers these, my word for that is soul codes. I think of all these symbols in life as, they're our soul codes, because they can trigger different meanings for each of us based on what our soul is.
Yes, absolutely.
So what do you see with your knowledge as an astrologer in our world today, with everything that's going on? What have your readings in the charts been showing you is in front of us?
Well, starting in January of 2020, when we had the lineup of Capricorn planets, and all astrologers knew something big, very big, a paradigm shift is happening. I don't know, there's probably some very insightful world astrologers who had a sense of pandemic or something like that. I didn't sense it like that, but I sensed the world is changing. It will never be the same. Um, Not really knowing, I don't have a vision of where that's going, or what will the world look like in the next phase. um, I just keep hoping for a softer, kinder, more holistic world. And I don't know if that's idealistic. It doesn't have to be, because, and I know a lot of people, and I don't know if many of the people who listen to your program, they could have, they have seen something, let's say in Donald Trump, and they wanted him to win the election. Or, there's people who see things, half of our people, the United States voted not the way that, not for Biden, let's say that. So when Biden takes office, on Biden Harris, and I think she's a very important piece of that, because I don't think that he looks very strong, but she does. I mean, she just bounds up on stage and she's got a vision and she talks in a very strong, clear voice. The day so that would be January 20th, on 2021, many of the planets that were in Capricorn 4 years ago, and Capricorn has to do with power. I control you, you control me. Who do we give our power to? Who has power? How to grab power? Those planets will have moved into Aquarius. And I see Aquarius as a much more like we are all one. We all have something to offer. There's much more humanity, I think, from January 20th, 21, and how I see that affecting, and I do see it affecting the whole world. We're all in this pandemic together. It has changed everyone's life, how they earn money, how they go to the store. Many people have lost loved ones. So I feel like as we're going into this, where there's a conjunction, it's called the stellium, because there'll be 4 planets in Aquarius, bright light, because all those planets will be together. There is going to be more working with each other. I'm going to the store. Can I get something for you? I'm doing this, or I'm going to go to the post office. Let me take your letters. Where I don't think the hard-earned lessons from the past 4 years, and especially 2020, many things were brought into, it's like a big, huge rock was put in front of us, and we had to go, there's a big rock there. And it had to do with greed. It had to do with, stepping on people to get someplace else. And I just, again, I feel very optimistic about the place that we're going. We're not going to be there in January. We're not going to be there by the end of 2021. Maybe 2023, we're still trying to visualize it, but I think things are finally moving in a better direction. That's what I think.
The planets, obviously, I'm not an astrologer with the knowledge of all the planets and everything. I just know a certain armchair's amount of knowledge. The planets have different speeds of movement, don't they?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when you mention like a stellium of planets that are together, do those 4 planets have different amount? what am I thinking? Amounts, this is the wrong words to use, but the amounts of motion, do they move at different levels, those four that are all together on that one day?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so like January of 2020, when these planets came together that had not been together for 100 years, that was a point in time. And then some of them moved on. Many of them didn't. They stayed. So it's almost like all of 2020, because it was big, slow-moving planets: Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter.
Heavy and slow.
And the ones that were so influential and allowed and sort of foretold the pandemic was Pluto and Saturn coming together. But it was all three really coming together that said, well, the paradigm shift. What we're looking for, how we perceive our lives, and we're still bubbling around with it. I don't think all of us know. How could we? Can't leave our houses. At least, I don't know if you're doing that up there. I know in New Mexico, we are in a complete shutdown. So it means grocery stores are open, but I don't know what else is, but no other stores, no restaurants, no nothing.
Yeah.
And if you are outside your house, you're supposed to have a mask on.
Same
is that
here.
how it is in Washington?
Yeah,
Okay.
We went into that this week. Stores like grocery stores are at 25% occupancy right now. So they control,
Yes.
with a clicker if you're in there.
Yes. And so it means that lots of lines again, lots of, if you're going to go someplace, don't think it's going to happen very fast. Don't forget about going to the store to get whatever you forgot. You better have your whole list, because once you get in there, you must do all your shopping. I think that's going to be with us for a while. It just seems like there has been a recklessness with some people that we are revisiting this so quickly, months after we've been told this was coming, but people didn't change their ways. People wanted to go out, or they wanted to go to restaurants and bars and not wear masks. Well, it affected everybody. So I just feel like as we move forward, and when I look at the horoscope, which I'm looking at for the middle of 2021, I see that it's a time of more curiosity and not giving away our power to any one source, be it the president or anybody, because people were getting, in the past, they have received misinformation. So it's almost like everything has to start all over, like where we get our information, how we use it. We will be in a time that's called North Node in the sign of Gemini. And the North Node has to do with be like a child, ask questions, be curious. You can't say, there is no way of saying, well, I'm tired of this, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's just not a good idea at all.
Yeah. Even though it might be tempting because we're all fatigued.
We are all so fatigued, and how many Netflix programs are we going to watch? But I think that there are many artists I know who have really used this time to do more creating than usual. I'm not necessarily one of those. At times I would just feel so weighted down by this. I couldn't even get up. I would just think, it wasn't like, oh boy, I have all this free time. I didn't feel it like that. I felt like something is really wrong. That's what I felt in the world.
Because there was, right? Yeah.
Because it was, and
Yeah.
it wasn't out there. It affected all of us, everyone's lives. They've all been affected by this so profoundly. And now it is time, not quite yet, but in the next couple of months. And I think everybody I know, nobody's having a Thanksgiving like with their family. I mean, those things hit hard. They really make you stop and say, this is serious. It's important to pay attention.
Yeah. And I know in Washington, the request not to, well, it was more or less an order not to have Thanksgiving with groups. And the ban, or whatever it's being called, was going to be instilled until December 14. But the talk is really doubtful. It's doubtful whether it'll be lifted on the 14th of December. So we'll see.
I just don't see how this could be passed. How will there's some real knuckleheads that are part of planet Earth that just don't realize how their behavior affects everyone else. So I don't know. I would be shocked. Like, we're in lockdown in New Mexico until November 30th, but nobody believes that's the end of it. That's just the last time they said it, reviewed things and.
So, and I always look at, I always think of, not look at, think of astrology as having levels of, when you're talking about what the country looks like, and I'm asking if this is accurate. When you're looking at a chart for the country, I'm thinking that it then reflects in different ways in a similar pattern on individuals' lives. So, for example, if there's a paradigm shift in the country, you might see more individualistic paradigm shifts in individuals' charts. Is that accurate? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do see that. It's like one of the components of astrology is compatibility. And, it's one that comes up a lot because why? Why does it come up a lot? Well, because it is hard to be with another person all the time. So we might choose to get married to someone and they show us their best self for many years. We show them our best self for many years. And then there's cracks in that. And all of a sudden you're going, well, wait a minute. Why was that person never here before? I'm seeing a side of you I didn't see before. I watched this special once with Chris Rock, and he said, marriage is good. Said, but why doesn't the person you're going to marry show up? It's always their ambassador. Well, the ambassador is our rising sign. It's our best self. So we're not trying to trick the other person, but we are not comfortable enough to show them warts and all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so compatibility ends up being an important part of astrology to see how planets fit together. And I think environmentally, there are situations, and they trickle down, and we have a compatibility situation with the environment or what's going on. It affects people differently.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's such a relevant topic with everything that's going on. Okay, well, I could talk about all kinds of things, but I want to be respectful of your time. So you've mentioned some things that you would like to do next with your art. What other, if is there anything else that you have in mind in your future?
Well, yes, I do want to get to the point, because I have had clients and people from Instagram who've said, how can I buy some of your art? Well, that just puts me go, oh, I'm not ready for that. I can't do that. So I would like to make that next hurdle. And that happened with astrology. A lot of times, way back in the beginning, I wouldn't think of charging someone for a reading. I would just think, well, let's just sit down. I'll draw up your horoscope and we're going to look at that. And a reading would probably take hours because I'd have to always looking in my books and how to do it. And then as it became more a language that I just knew, I was able to get it down to an hour, talk about many things, not everything. Can't talk about a person's whole life in an hour. And it was easier to charge. Well, I haven't crossed that hurdle yet. So I would like to do that. And will I be able to do it? I hope so. Because, the art supplies are a lot. My husband always reminds me, yes, everything costs money. But I think, so I would like to, two goals with my art right now are, one, to be able to sell some of my art, to have a show and to do it, even if I do the show like on Instagram or something, but at least, do something. And second, when I'm working with paint, I'm just trying to create something that's beautiful. I know is that what every artist does? But I would really, sometimes I go too far with something. There's a point when I'm painting and I think it looks really good. And then I do something else and it looks horrible. And I can't just take it back. So I wish I could get to a point of being able to work with shapes and colors and know when to stop.
I understand. And when you get ready to sell your artwork, there are already 2 pieces that I have been eyeing.
Which ones?
Well, the Leo box.
What are they?
The Leo box. And now that you showed me the 7 of Pentacles, that's 7 of Pentacles.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to write that down so I remember. And I did once put them on I made this site, did it all by myself, and was so proud of it. And I put a lot of things up. Oh my God, I charged so little. I had somebody just march over to my house and say, those prices are stupid. I mean, I was charging like $35. And she said, I know what you've put. No, take everything down. Yeah. And then I thought, well, I can't trust my senses then because I don't know. And, it's not like you're charging for the pieces that you put into something. It's this whole gestalt of who you are and what creates art.
I understand.
So that has also been a slow process.
I understand. I do. Do you have any goals of what's next for you? You've been in the astrology business for so long. Do you have anything that you want to do beyond what you're doing with that? You're so well established.
At this point, I am well established, but I have been so busy I think I've worked every single day for the last year and a half.
Oh my gosh, Lucy.
And then I just hit a wall where like the last 2 weeks I've probably seen 2 people. And I went, oh, maybe everybody who ever wanted a reading from me they've all gone away. And I know I go through this all the time, but I do prefer to be busy. So, no, I think my life with astrology is at a very good place. I feel that the people who find me, they sort of know what to expect, so they're not going to be disappointed or anything else. And, something very good happens. So, no, I want to just keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, before we close, I'll have all the links to your site and how to reach you and all of that. But is there anything that I haven't asked? Yeah, definitely. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to add?
No, I can't think of anything. I've enjoyed this so much, as I always do when I talk to you. So I thank you so much for having me, and it's been so satisfying. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. And to all our listeners, please be well and stay well. Stay with me.